You have probably used satellite imagery or drone photographs or even sometimes work with NDVI that is calculated using the satellite imagery. But have you ever stopped to think what actually happening behind the data? How does the sensors hundreds of the kilometer above the earth capture meaningful information about the surface feature with such precision? Hi guys, welcome to the day 2 of 100 days in geospatial data analysis. Today we break down remote sensing, not just what it is, but how it truly works. Okay, let's dive into the topic. Remote sensing. It is the science, or some extent you can say it's an art of acquiring the information about the object, area, or the phenomena on the earth's surface through the analysis of the data acquired by the device. That is not without actually being in contact with the object, area, or the phenomena under the investigation. What is mean by this line? Okay, let's say this is a earth surface, right? This is a earth surface. There is a building, there is a river, there is a ponds or lake. Okay, let's say this is a landslide area. Okay, and this is the remote sensing sensor. This is a remote sensing sensor that is orbiting around the earth surface. Let's say this is sun and the radiation is coming from the sun, and this is electromagnetic radiation. And when and after the radiation is striking into the earth surface, that is reflected towards the sensor, and the sensor capture the energy that is reflected from the surface, and this sensor record the energy in the form of imagery, and send this imagery into the processing station on the surface. And after analyzing this information in this workstation, we'll find out where is actually the ground, where is actually the building, how large is building, how large is river, and from the direction of flow of the river, and how large is lake, and some information, right? And so what is mean by that is we get the information of the earth surface by analyzing the information that is captured from the sensor, which is not actually being in contact with the remote sensing devices. This is called the remote sensing, right? And the process use the electromagnetic radiation. That this is the electromagnetic radiations sensor to record the image of the environment, right? The sensor record the earth surface in the form of imagery, which can be interpreted to produce the useful information. This is done by sensing and recording the reflected or the emitted radiation. Okay, let's say sometimes it doesn't always use the reflected energy. Sometimes it use the some of the emitted radiation too. This is done by sensing and recording the reflected emitted radiation and processing, analyzing, and applying that information, right? This is called the remote sensing. Okay, let's move into the next slide. Okay, you can see, you can take an example of our eyes. Okay, this is the sun, and okay, you are reading the book, something like this is the book, and you are reading from here, and the radiation is coming from the sun that is striking to your book, and then the radiation is reflected back to your eyes, and your eyes measures the pulse according to the energy that is reflected from the book, and using those energy you separate the text or something like that. Okay, let's read. You are also employing the remote sensing. Your eyes are acting as a sensor that is respond to the light reflected from this page. The data your eyes acquire are the impulse corresponding to the amount of the light reflected from the dark and light area on the pages. These data are analyzed, interpreted in your mental. At this time, your eyes record the energy. It's like a sensor, and your mental your brain is act like a computer analyzing station, and the brain analyze the station and interpret the results, right? Interpret in your mental computer to enable you to explain the dark areas on the page and collection of the letter forming the words. And you, after analyzing, we can say that this is words, right? And beyond this, after that, you recognize that word from the sentence, and you recognize every words, and and after analyzing these words, they make the form the sentence, and you interpret the information that that sentence convey. After analyzing this sentence, you can say that this sentence try to explain something like that, right? Okay. uh, let's move to the end. Yeah, how the remote sensing works, I already said you that, right? Likewise our eyes, remote sensing system make a use reflected electromagnetic radiation radiated from its source, right? Radiated from the source to detect and collect the data of the earth surface and form remote sensing imagery. This can be accomplished through the three components: source, sensor, and the sensing. Okay, let me give this is called the source, where the light energy gets generated, and it is going towards the surface, and then it is reflected from the surface, or yes, it is reflected and going towards the sensor. The sensor measure the radiation, and yes, there is a first is source is this, and the sensor is this is sensor, and sensing is, and then it transfer the energy to the, yes, to the station where it can be interpreted. And detection and the discrimination of the object or the surface features means detecting and recording the radiant energy or reflected emitted by the object or the surface material. Different object return different amount, yes, and the building reflect the energy based on its property. River reflected its energy based on its own property and property. So after analyzing, yes, analyzing the amount of the radiation that is reflected from the each source, we interpret the target, right? Different kind of energy in the different bands of electromagnetic spectrum incident upon it. This unique property depends on the property of the materials. I already said that: surface roughness, angle of incidence, intensity, wavelength of the radiant energy. We will explain every of the topic in the next slides. In general, it also can be termed as knowing without going. We can interpret the result without going to this target. That is that's how the remote sensing works. And okay, I here I make the clear picture. This is the sun, and sometime sun, that is the energy is going to from the sun to the target, then the target reflect the energy, and the sensor measure the amount of the energy that is reflected from the target, then it sends the information to the ground monitoring ground receiving station, and then this station receive that signals and process the signal, and we take the station where we are analyzing, we take this station convert the signals to the imagery, and we interpret the signal, and we use this information as an application in the sometimes in forestry, in precision agriculture, sometimes disaster risk reduction, or something like that. And whole process complete into the 7 steps. Okay, and G is application. Yeah, G is application. Okay, it for yes, this is the type of passive remote sensing. In the active remote sensing, it doesn't depend on the energy source that is generated from the sun. The sensor generates its energy, and then it record the energy. And sometimes they measures the not only the reflected beam, also the emitted beam from the target, right? And whole process can be covered into the every step. That is energy source of the illumination. Here is the sunlight, and the radiation and the atmosphere. And at the first step we have the sunlight. Second step, the sunlight is interaction to the atmosphere, mostly the troposphere and the stratosphere, or the and mostly the ionosphere interfere the signals, and then the signals is transmitted toward the earth surface, and then the earth reflect the signal, and again it interact with the atmosphere, and this is atmosphere, and see that is interaction to the target, then again interfere with the atmosphere, then the recording of the energy by the sensor, then the sensor record that energy, and then the sensor transmit the energy. This station receive that energy, and then process that energy, and the process into the form of imagery, and then the analysis station analyze that imagery, and then after analysis we can analysis and the interpretation, we can use these information as a application. I already said that all these application are forestry, precision agriculture, disaster risk reduction, and many more applications. Okay, and I explain every, yes, this is whole explanation of the each of the state, right? Okay, let's move into the another step. Yeah, and all this we start from the energy source, right? At first, the requirement of the remote sensing is to have an energy source which eliminate or provide the electromagnetic energy to the target of the interest, and then it will interact with the atmosphere. As the energy travel from the source to the target, it will come in contact with the interact with the atmosphere it passes through. This interaction may take place second time as the energy travel from the target to the sensor. Likewise, here is interaction, and here is the at first, here the radiation interact with the atmosphere, and also here the radiation interact with the atmosphere. Okay. Okay, and then interaction with the target. Once the energy make it way to the target through the atmosphere, and after this energy after interaction with the atmosphere, it makes the way toward the surface, right? It interact with the target depending on the property of the target, both the target and the radiation, and then there is a different features on the earth surface, and it reflect the beam, and the amount of the energy that is contained on the reflection beam is depends on the property of the surface, the property of the object that is present on the earth surface, and also in the wavelength of the signal. And then there is a sensor, and the recording of the energy by the sensor, and this energy can be recorded by the sensor. After the energy has been scattered by or the emitted from the target, we require a sensor remote not in the contact with the target to collect and record the electromagnetic radiation. And after the sensor collect the information of the earth surface, it transmit the signal, this is called the transmission, and then ground station receive the signal, that is called the reception, and it process that signals, and this is called the processing. And then after it processing, then there is a interpretation station where we can interpret the result, and we interpret something like this is the river, this is building, or something like that. Maybe we can interpret by classification, feature extraction, or something like that, and then we use these in the different applications. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you. We will see you in the next video.